Welcome back to Magus in the Media, and today we got a brain teaser, as in there is some great MKUltraing going on at all times, especially with the screen that is before you. The MKUltra hearings, Anna Paulina Luna, who's bringing it to Congress. Is she a good person? Is she a bad person? What is really going on? And does she even matter? I don't think so, because what truly matters is that if you think MKUltra is just a mere story about LSD experiments from the Cold War era, yesterday's hearing that happened, or whenever you're listening to this hearing that just took place, suggests something much, much larger. Because what Congress has now revisited wasn't simply a failed CIA program. It was much more research, dark research, twisted research and experimentation into how human perception, memory, and attention can be shaped, and how and what that these questions that they asked and experimented on didn't actually disappear in 1973. It just got deeper, more layered, and more integrated into our society. And if you don't know, Magus in the Media is here for you. So make sure to subscribe, like, and share, not only to me, but to my great co-host for today, the Cardinal Electric Head himself, the leader of the Occult Rejects. Nick, how are you doing?
Good, man. I'm great. I'm glad to be on here. Always love podcasting with you. And this topic's right up my alley. Especially, I just got done recording a 2-part series on hypnosis, and I covered part of MKUltra. Because there's a lot to do with hypnosis that fits right in. Like you said, the LSD is a small part of that.
Yeah, just a small part. And what's fascinating is it's like, what, in this age of not knowing what the fuck is going on, and then all of a sudden this woman pulls up this thing, as in Anna Paulina Luna's all like, let's go to Congress about the MKUltra hearings. And fascinating enough, so most of you probably may not know, she doesn't have just any whistleblowers there. She has Tom O'Neill, which is the writer of Chaos, CIA, Charles Manson, and the MKUltra program. And so this book is fantastic. And if people haven't read it, I highly recommend going into reading it, because he speculates. He's really good at saying that I don't know if I can't prove that Charles Manson is exactly a Manchurian candidate, but I can prove that there is definitely interconnections between him, Jolly West, Sidney Gottlieb, and the whole MKUltra program, which is fascinating enough. And what is it? The other guy's name, I think, is Kinzer, and he actually is connecting the dots between MKUltra and the Nazi experiments and the Nazis, and then all the Nazis that we brought over from Operation Paperclip. So another great CIA program, great as an awful CIA program that brought a bunch of crazed scientists over here. It feels like the scientists are going to kill us, doesn't it, Nick?
Yeah. It's interesting too that we also we don't talk about too much. Is that we even took the Japanese doctors that were a part of Unit 731, I think it was called. We took them too, besides the Nazi ones. And like, those Japanese, I mean, they were putting babies outside to see how long it would take to die in the cold.
Right.
And they were ruthless. Yeah. So, I mean, we took them as well. And Russia took them as well. Russia and our country took a shit ton of those doctors.
Yeah. And most people, again, hopefully our listeners do, but the idea of Wernher von Braun creating NASA's program, I've said that many times, and he's one of the heads and Nazi scientists at that time frame, then being best friends with Walt Disney himself.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
There's pictures of them. Best friends may be a jump, but I'm like, how do these people, And so then Walt Disney creating Disney is one of the biggest corporations known to man, who's taken over Marvel, and it's a basic brainwashing and programming and manipulation, and all this stuff kind of stems from the exact experiments that they were pulling off with MKUltra, and they say that shit in this hearing that we're going to listen to today. Fascinating enough on how not only did it happen then, but the whole thing is that it never ended itself, just the project, the CIA project, because there were 150 sub-projects in the MKUltra project itself. And that is so many. And what I brought up last time, it's kind of like the idea of LifeLog that CIA had.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, let's just shut down that. We're not going to do that. And then the next day Facebook pops up, and supposedly some fucking wimp cyborg kid called Mark Zuckerberg runs it.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. And again, just so everybody knows, MKUltra technically wasn't never shut down in any meaningful sense. It was absorbed. It absorbed what began as chemical and psychological experimentation on unwitting subjects became, over decades, the research foundation for a much larger project. The engineering of belief, intention, and perception at a large scale. And the CIA's own scientists were chasing that same target, that every algorithm now that hits your eyes, the retina, the nervous system, to control you like a little monkey. It's done by design. It's like, let's not stay black-pilled, because the idea between all of this that's really important is to understand that, what are we doing here, Nick? We are becoming sovereign magicians. This is the most important aspect of this entire thing, don't you think?
Well, that's like we were saying earlier, that's why I got into this. A part of it was to be, I guess, to not let the world's outside stimulations run my life.
Yeah.
And most of that's coming from the TV and our phone, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's funny. And the propaganda. And Edward Bernays, who is the public relations, the propaganda machine, the Nazis called it, the Department of Propaganda, we changed it to public relations. So it had a nice, more soft touch, it seems. It's like, let's not call it propaganda. I think that's got a little cringe note to it, don't you think?
Yeah. So, interesting, though, when it comes to the propaganda, now I guess maybe I could see why Walt Disney was connected with the other guy.
Oh, yeah. Especially because of remember the Looney Tunes back in the day, how they were like, buy our stamps. Women go clink on. We need, all the men are gone, so it's good for you to go. I think that was the voice it sounded like too. Go over to your local U.S. Department Army and work for your nation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's fascinating. And why we do this is to have everyone understand that that the dark sorcerers, the techno-feudalists, the parasitic oligarchs are out there right now trying to, every day as you wake up, instead of the first thing you're doing being breathing, meditating, kissing your loved ones, making sure you eat well, get the sun in your eyes, which is really important, which is why we're right. Liber Resh, go outside, all hail Ra. The idea is that you're taking in that red light into your body, allowing the body to heal itself. But instead, what do? We pick up the scrying ancient black phone of death. And then at that time, it is widely, completely taking control of that pineal gland. Interesting enough, what we learned in our last talk was that the pineal gland isn't just the third eye, isn't just the seat of the soul, as Descartes says, or the vision of all visions, but actually has magnetite in it, which creates piezoelectricity. And when we were talking about CERN, Kaiva and I, on our show on Monday, we were talking about how with the Large Hadron Colliders, which is basically like taking two different, an electric and a magnetic, and swinging these things around. I know CERN is actually taking protons and colliding them to make big effects, big bangs, but that's got to have, it does have an effects on our consciousness. And so it's coming down to this mass weaponization of human consciousness in an individual and a massive scale. And as Truthstream Media, I've tried to reach out to them. You should as well. Truthstream Media came out with a documentary. It's a 5-hour documentary called Minds of Men. Everybody should go out there, shout them out, and tell them that we're friends and we want to talk, because that documentary is one of the most brilliant documentaries. And it really shows how you get from human experimentation from early World War I and the early 1900s to World War II and the MKUltra program, from Artichoke, Bluebird, Artichoke, and Project Climax to the Project MKUltra, and how from that we actually get these little machines before us and the algorithm and AIs.
I would even say, kind of what you're saying with World War One. I had covered stuff with music and drumming, and I even have an episode that I'm going to eventually do where it even shows how music was basically used to kind of by the Nazis to get people prepared for war. But around World War One, they were already doing scientific studies on music to manipulate people.
Even in World War One.
Yeah, so it's just did MKUltra kind of that could have been separate little projects prior that came together to make one thing. You know what I'm saying? Those little things might have been being done separately in some fact before MKUltra.
No, I completely agree. And then you get the occulted history underneath that all with, Woodridge, Westcott, and Mathers creating the Golden Dawn. And you're like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, I'm like, well, late 1800s, early 1900s, and all these things going on, you get this occult movement and the revolutions of magic and all the stuff that's going on, then helping create this man called Aleister Crowley, who became a huge proponent in the alliance, the Allied powers, to fight against the Nazis and the German. And Crowley himself was a double agent, but he created the V for victory.
Yeah.
To be.
You know what I think that goes with? Have you ever done the hexagram rituals?
Oh yeah.
At one point, when you make the sign of Isis, then after that, you make the sign of Apophis and Typhon, the rising beast. And I'm like, I think that's what he's just going in the formula.
That's exactly what he is doing. And so you and I should actually do a breakdown. We should try to get Douglas Rushkoff on.
Okay.
Because that guy is brilliant as well. And he's doing a very similar thing that you and I are doing, just in his own way, a little more liberal leaning. But he wrote a comic book called Adolf and Adolf, which it's Alistair and Adolf, where he's connecting these Hitler to Crowley, and how Crowley and Hitler, but not Hitler himself, but Hitler's right-hand man, the occultist himself, that was underneath Hitler, were going up against each other, and there's this magical battles going on. Yeah.
It wasn't Himmler. You're not talking about Himmler, are you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Himmler was like, it was his right-hand man. I feel like he was the more of the occultist than Hitler was.
And he was. Yep, he definitely was. And so these two were kind of magically battling, and that's why what's his name for the Brits brought Crowley in, was because they knew they needed the great beast himself. Right. And I will state, both Nick and I, we are not Crowleyites, but we see the prophet himself. Not that he's the only prophet, but his brilliance as a magician in his work, I think, is understated or overstated. And it should be stated right in the middle of that. This man was brilliant, and he was a main reason for how you and I could do our own magic to this day.
For sure.
Which is really important. And again, these sorcerers battling, magicians versus dark sorcerers, this doesn't just happen out of nowhere, but it builds itself off of a history that is trying to hide the secret of our own history. And that's you and I and everyone listening are magicians, and that we are to lift ourselves out of the propaganda machine and out of the cave into the light, so we can finally see things for as they are, beautiful in all ways. So we're not black pilled here. We're better than the black pill. We red pill all day long until we lift ourselves up high as magicians. And so I think we laid that out pretty nicely. Got anything to say before we start listening to this?
No, not really.
Beautiful. And we get Anna.
Declassification.
Oh, there she is, right away. So here we go. We're going to start it off with Anna Paulina Luna.
Families deserve acknowledgement, and this Congress has a constitutional obligation to ensure that full declassification is not delayed any longer. Project MKUltra was not a policy failure or an overzealous program that got out of hand. It was a deliberate, systematic governmental operation that subjected American citizens, prisoners, hospital patients, veterans, ordinary people to LSD, electroshock, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, psychological torture without their knowledge or consent. This went on for 20 years on American soil, funded by American taxpayer dollars and authorized by the very top of U.S. intelligence apparatus. And this program, when it did end, the men who ran it did not cooperate with investigators. They did not come forward. They committed another crime. They destroyed evidence. The documents this task force has reviewed are unambiguous. In January 1973, the director of the CIA, Richard Helms, prepared to leave office. He personally ordered the destruction of MKUltra records.
Isn't that crazy that you can just destroy records?
Yeah, right. Should be fired for that.
Yeah, and nobody cares. They're like, yeah, we have to. And what's interesting is, I think Tom O'Neill kind of brings up in other interviews, is that it's like, to be able to do things through CIA and the black departments, you still have to have receipts and files and all these things. And so it's fascinating to know that then through time now it's all this leads us into is the blockchain AI technology that we're all going to be, this dystopian reality that's being built up around us, which is why it's more important than ever to get your memory straight, right? Why the memory practices are so important.
Yeah.
especially because they're going to they've been I think Kaiva and I talk about all the time that we think that they've been trying to erase our memories many times over in throughout history.
Well, I would even say I think COVID would have done that to an extent. Every time they traumatize you with some shit, I think you part of your brain's going to forget something and do something else. It's hard to explain. You're almost like you're fractured, and I think you kind of forget a little bit.
Oh, I just bought a book that I'm going to talk about in a few streams, and it's talking about that exactly, that like mass psychological hallucinations, mass. There's a certain word that this guy goes on, but that's exactly what it's for. COVID, 9/11, all the wars, all these different things. Each one of them is like and they talk about it later in our Congress hearing here, where the algorithm is meant to basically turn on MKUltra / Manchurian candidates, and that the algorithm does wide swaths to change people's minds on things, to make them fearful. He brings up what's his name? Brings up Martin Luther King and how he got killed by.
I even thought that Charlie Kirk might have been something like that too.
They bring up Charlie Kirk in this
because if you think about that, you know how many people saw that dude. If it's real, what happened. You know how many people watched a guy get shot in the fucking neck and die?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of traumatizing to be like, everybody on Twitter was sharing that shit. I was like, yo, what the fuck? It's not the same thing as like when David Lynch said, in his opinion, he thought when they had the atomic bomb, that was to just fucking traumatize and rip fear through people.
Yep. It's very important to
but
know.
You got a question too, because like, how did you even film the bomb being dropped?
Very interesting.
Yeah, just make your houses out of whatever that camera's made out of, and you're good.
I love that. I think I watched that on Rogan, where the guy goes on there.
He was on the moon before the guy got out of the fucking out of the shit.
Yeah, weird.
There's a camera on the moon watching the guy take his first steps. No, the motherfucker set up the camera, took their first steps.
Must have left the camera, as well as let's just beam a telephone call from the moon to everybody else. Huh? Interesting.
You can't even do that with fucking cell phones.
Yep, and exactly. And the idea I want to continually bring up here is of general semantics, the hierarchy of the nervous system, and what Timothy Leary's also in this time frame in the 60s and 70s was doing is that he's taking the LSD experiments and using them not only on himself. LSD was actually a mass, manipulated, put out to the culture. I think the hippie movement was not organic, obviously, and put out there by Tavistock and everything going on in Mulholland Drive and
what a lot of bands were used for that.
Hyatt Ashbury. Yep, exactly. The Dead were used to push all the LSD. I loved
some of their albums. I think that they were highly involved in pushing LSD onto people.
Yep. And what does LSD do? So we all remember, I know you all remember, I'm going to tell you, it puts you into imprint vulnerability. It's a neuro drug. And so what it does is it puts your nervous system into imprint vulnerability, which is why it's so important of setting to put yourself around people, signs, symbols, music, sets, internal settings, so that when you go into those limbic states, those imprint vulnerable states, that whatever is being now re-imprinted onto it's this closed loop system. Now your world is going to respond. It goes back to what you and I have talked about. What the thinker thinks, the prover proves.
Yeah.
And so it's really important.
It's really interesting. I forgot her name. I feel so bad. Might have been, no, I don't want to screw it up. Mario's girlfriend from Symbolic Studies.
Yeah.
She had commented when they were doing their commenting after our shows, after our little things on their show.
Yeah.
She had, and it's funny, I didn't specify it. I should have. When I was talking about the flashing colors, I actually meant like the flashing colors when we made sigils, like yellow goes with blue and green goes with red. I didn't mean flashing colors, but that something does happen with that. But she even said, think about being on LSD and then how that allows your body or your brain to be like whatever influenced. And like these bands or these places that you're at, they got shit on screens flashing. They got effects. They got lights.
Yeah.
You have no idea what the fuck's being done to you.
Nope. No, it completely. And I will say through my own anecdotal experience, I was talking to you about before, and I've told people online and just about, I'm an open book. What happened to Brandon? What happened to him? Well, I got really lucky, right? It's like I was studying philosophy, Aristotle, Plato, the basic frameworks of what objectivity and truth are, at the same time taking high dosages of LSD. And I took 4 massive doses. I took 4 hits, but things got a little weird. I had my own apocalyptic vision because I was listening to the band Tool, And truly, like, the things that I was doing at that time frame was then all of a sudden from that I had my own, like, all these things that I'd never seen before, and I've been trying to find and pick up the pieces ever since. And it set me upon this Philosopher's Stone Holy Grail search for the sacred marriage and union of my soul with the universe. Not everybody gets that. A lot of people burn out. You know what I mean? And so it's like interesting that maybe each one of us, due to our astrological charts and our past lives and our constitution, that some of us move along the path and have a, life's hard, but upon trying to do this, we start to, why did I all of a sudden, Robert Anton Wilson, Timothy Leary, Aleister Crowley, Israel Regardie, all these people, why did I? Well, it's because of Tool, I think, brainwashed me. I'll say it. Because Danny Carey is drumming. Danny Carey, the number one holder of Aleister Crowley's first published works. And he's using his drum, right? Shamanic drumming, using his drums that's all set up with sacred geometry. And he has his Enochian tablets on these things.
I'm gonna ask you if you do that. Yeah, he sometimes could be hitting specific shit on that one drum space.
Yep.
Like he's doing like Seder Square shit.
Yes, he is. He's a fucking brilliant. He's the greatest drummer of all time.
That shit, I was like, what the fuck?
Yep. So now think about listening to that on 4 hits of high-powered blotter acid and not knowing what the fuck is going on. And so it's we all don't get that lucky. Now think about it like this. You're in the middle of a science experiment where people don't care about your best interests. You're in a doctor's chair and now you're being dosed with high-powered LSD without your knowledge as they are imprinting you. I truly believe that they have the ability to, and they say this here, we're going to get back to it, to stripping away memories and re-imprinting memories that aren't your own. And Tom O'Neill talks about it as well.
Oh, no, I think definitely with concerts and shows and shit.
Oh, yeah.
I think between that and just other stuff, they definitely know how to manipulate people and move people.
Oh, yeah.
I even think that one kid, I forgot the name of it. It was one that there was some rapper kid. And like a bunch of people died before the show even started because of like the weird, or during the show. I don't know if you remember, it was a couple of years back. And I was even questioning, like, was that done on purpose? Because they were saying there was weird tones and shit coming out of the system before like shit got weird.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, for sure. I completely agree. And now think about it. If you're a weaker individual, weaker constitution, who's had a lot of trauma, a lot of vulnerability, and all of a sudden it's really easy to wipe the slate clean, where all of a sudden you pick up your phone one day and a tone comes out of it. And all of a sudden you kind of like, oh, and now you just have one mission and one mission only. And then you complete that mission. We just find it with mentalists and hypnosis. Where all of a sudden
hashtags are for that.
What are?
I think hashtags can be used for that.
Oh.
It's almost like a trigger.
It's a trigger. And then all of a sudden you complete your mission. And if you get shot or you don't and killed by the police, then all of a sudden you forget. And you're like, I don't know why. Or you have a cover up for that whole thing. So it's really fascinating. Here we go. Let's go back to it.
The CIA official document in writing states, over my stated objectives, the MKUltra files were destroyed by the order of DCI Mr. Helms shortly before his departure from office. A separate internal account confirms that Helms telephoned Dr. Gottlieb directly and instructed him to destroy, quote, all files pertaining to drug research and associated activities. Gottlieb compiled 4 people, spent an entire day burning down 152 files. Then Gottlieb had his personal papers destroyed by his secretary before he retired.
Crazy. Secretary, go destroy all those files.
When this is done, I got some funny shit to talk about Gottlieb.
Okay.
The head of the CIA-owned Records Center protested the destruction in writing, but he was overruled. That is obstruction of justice. That is criminal destruction of federal records, and neither individuals were ever charged with a crime for it. Helms received a $2,000 fine for lying to Congress about an unrelated matter and collected his government. $
2,000 fine for this guy, which is basically like a drop in the hat.
Yeah, I mean, even back then, what was that equal to? Like 15 grand? You know what I'm saying? Come on.
Oh, that's good.
Until he died. Gottlieb retired in rural Virginia and wrote poetry. No one went to prison. No victim was ever formally compensated by the government for the harm that they caused. By 1975, the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission had already established through sworn testimony and the surviving 1963 Inspector General report that MKUltra existed and that the CIA had run a program of human experimentation on unwitting Americans. The scope and detail of what we know today is largely because of an accident. In 1977, an archivist diligently complying with a FOIA request discovered 7 boxes of MKUltra financial records that had been misfiled and escaped the bonfire. Those 7 boxes included the names of institutions, the name of subprojects, the researchers who participated, the specific operation that the CIA had funded, and without them, the vast majority of MKUltra would only be a rumor, just as Helms and Gottlieb intended. Those 7 boxes revealed that MKUltra comprised at least 149 subprojects, operated across more than 80 institutions, and involved 185 non-government researchers. They revealed that the CIA covertly contributed $375,000 to a hospital research wing, which was approved directly by DCI Alan Dulles, which Richard Helms concurrence.
Which wing
which wing it is?
Yeah, which hospital it is? Do they have
I
wonder if it's St. Elizabeth's.
Oh, what's that?
That was an MKUltra hospital that Ezra Pound ended up going to. That I do think there's a connection even with Ezra Pound being possibly part of MKUltra.
Interesting. He's like well known as one of like a good guy in all these things, as in, like a poet.
I wonder about that though. Honestly.
Yeah.
Not that I'm knocking. I'm not saying that the Rothschilds have nothing to do with it, but I do find it interesting that who was a fan of socialism. I mean, we got to remember that too, like where he came from, and he was obsessed with meeting Mussolini and finally met him. But like he was the one who handed us the idea that the Rothschilds were like, the whole conspiracy idea that they were running the world.
Oh, interesting.
Who brought us that? But he ended up getting considered, crazy. Some, doctor did that, and then as soon as that happened, whatever, they ended up transferring to St. Elizabeth's Hospital, put him in like a certain type of wing. It was, I don't know, special treatment, but there was MKUltra was going on in that hospital at the same time they brought him there.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I've always wondered, like, was it our way of bringing him over to work for us? Or did we just want him?
That's interesting.
Now, the quick thing about Gottlieb, did you know what Gottlieb was into before he started doing like kind of the MKUltra stuff?
No, what was he doing?
He did like a lot of gadgets and shit.
Yeah.
He did all those different gadgets. He was like kind of like a 007 type dude, really.
Interesting.
Shit that he was making. Now he has a daughter named Penny. Now this is just a grasp. And some people I've even added because of the whole nose thing, which I don't, whatever. Sometimes people, because I think Gottlieb was a Jew.
Yep.
So people will go with like, oh, even the cartoon character had a big nose. I do think it's possible Mr. Gadget was actually based after him because he had gadgets and he had a niece named Penny.
Oh, you're talking about Inspector Gadget?
Oh, yeah, Inspector Gadget, yeah.
Yeah. Da-na-na-na-na, Inspector Gadget.
I thought that it's quite possible that was actually
he did.
He had a niece named Penny, and he had all these gadgets. And Gottlieb had a daughter named Penny, and he made gadgets before he started doing the other shit.
That's a great connection.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird. I mentioned it once, and they're like, "Oh, he's got a big nose. It's definitely a Jew." I'm like,
can we not focus on that? That's not the point here.
I know that wasn't either for me, but I mean, maybe that's helping my case here, but I don't know. I didn't really see it that way. But
yeah, that's the same connection that we made to Gargamel on the show, right? So Gargamel has got the little more hunched over big nose, continually trying to go out. He's the dark sorcerer, continually trying to go after everybody. But Gargamel was a name of one of the particle accelerators, one of the first ones that they had. It wasn't the Large Hadron, but there was something going on before. It was before Smurfs was created. There was this thing going on with CERN in its beginnings, and it was called Gargamel, spelled slightly different. But it goes to the idea that we're not grasping for straws, but their coincidence control center runs on high sometimes, and the synchronicities of what's going on in our fictions or how fictions are created, we take from reality, and reality takes from, and it's this continual back and forth, right? It's kind of hard to get even away from it. So here we go. So now we're going to move on to Kinzer, because there's a Gottlieb and the nature of the research. And so here's an entry point for a little more the mythological and esoteric. Let's see here as we go. Let's see if I can find right here as we do it live. Magus and the media and the head electric cardinal doing it together.
Gottlieb to try to make poisons to knock people off too.
Did they?
Oh yeah, they tried taking out like leaders of countries.
Of course they did. They still do that today.
Yeah, I think they tried lacing someone's cigar or some shit and it didn't work.
Of course.
In 1951, the CIA hired Gottlieb and directed him to launch what became MKUltra. Gottlieb believed that in order to find a way to implant a new mind into someone's brain, you first had to find a way to destroy the mind that was in there already. In its search for ways to destroy a human mind and body, MKUltra conducted the most extreme experiments on human beings that have ever been carried out by a US government agency. By any standard, they qualify as medical torture. These experiments took place in prisons, clinics, and safe houses in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, and even in Latin America. Officers of MKUltra were authorized to travel to foreign countries, preferably those under formal or informal US occupation, and ask the local CIA station to provide them with expendables, human beings who would not be missed if they disappeared.
Which is then why I think they also want to be making and having so many homeless people. I think that the homeless in the United States and across Europe and these places, let alone the missing children, who cares? Like, I'm not saying I don't care. I'm just saying who cares, so to speak.
No, I know what you mean by that.
If a homeless person goes missing.
Same thing if like, if 5 hookers show up dead and 5 women that weren't hookers, they're going to care more about the ones that weren't hookers.
Exactly. And then there's just more experimentation, more lone gunmen, more Manchurian cannons, more sleeper cell activity for any random occurrence than to blame it on any Middle Eastern country or Russia or China. It's just really easy to have a smoking gun out there that you can just blame shit on.
When did those mental places become a thing?
Which ones?
Like places to put crazy people.
Like lunatic bins?
Yeah, because that's even something I remember seeing somebody, you can never trust Instagram. But it was an account that, normally doesn't post bullshit. But they were like showing how it's just like these buildings just like showed the fuck up out of nowhere, just like ready. It's just like,
right.
They're showing like these things were planned and built way before.
No, I agree. It says insane asylums became popular and widespread during the 19th and early 20th centuries, peaking in the 1950s. And originally envisioned as idyllic, quiet places of refuge, they ultimately transformed into overcrowded, understaffed institutions. The 19th century expansion, 1840s to 1880s, during this time, asylums were highly popular, driven by reformers like Dorothy Dix. States began funding large public psychiatric hospitals, taking mentally ill and elderly people out of prisons and poorhouses. By the 70s, almost all U.S. states had established at least one state-funded asylum. The peak population in 1950s, institutionalized, reached its absolute peak in 55, which nearly 600,000 patients resided in U.S. psychiatric hospitals.
Did you mention anything on there real quick? Maybe if you look something about Pilgrim State. Maybe you can see that supposedly had the most red bricks, I think, used in the whole country, like ever. And it was like a big, huge place that, for crazy people.
Oh, interesting. So Pilgrim State in Brentwood, New York. Is that the one?
Yeah. And again, red bricks give off EMF.
Yes, they do.
So you got all these supposedly crazy people surrounded of EMF bricks. I mean, what do you expect them to? How do you expect them to?
I'm going to give a slight not correction, but so the bricks, I don't know about, do they give off EMF? I know that
supposedly whatever's in the red brick does.
Interesting. So what I know about bricks is that bricks have the ability to make it so EMFs cannot penetrate it. But what happens is if you are in a complete home that is all completely brick and you have a large EMF meter inside the home, it amplifies
Really?
The EMF. So I did I did a massive deep dive over like a 7-year period of what electromagnetic frequency does on the human nervous system and non-native
That shit is wild.
non-native EMFs. And so so I think it'd be fascinating if what red bricks themselves can do, because I've never heard that, but that's yeah, I know that's definitely the bricks themselves definitely amplify. Concrete does as well, amplifies EMF signal, which is why I think why bricks went away was because of people in our current time frame. Why most people don't build with brick is because of, I think there's a overarching wanting of people to be inundated with EMF at all times.
Oh, I can see that.
You know what I mean? Especially with all the different Wi-Fi meters, 5G, 6G, which are, again, as we found out, I'll do a video on it soon, direct energy weapons. All you conspiracy theorists who got made fun of by your normie friends, direct energy weapons, and Peter Hegeseth just came out that the United States Army and military-industrial complex is buying hundreds of thousands of direct energy weapons, something that once wasn't real, now is. You can go look that up. News Nation just did a thing on it 5 days ago. Directed energy weapons. What could that be used for? Maybe from MKUltra, where you could then take over somebody's mind completely. It's not just for a big boom bang or for, blowing up massive forests.
Yeah, right.
Fascinating.
Who knows what that could be used for, actually? You could target individuals, maybe.
They say they're not.
I think Peter Thiel's doing that already.
Yeah. So, yeah, interesting. Oh, Zerolith says red brick is rare in Minecraft because it has energy.
Yeah, I was reading on here. If it gets to room temperature, because I think of, what was it, the IO or something in it, it can start giving off EMF, but not like anything crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, was it the red iode or some shit like that? The red color? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I like that. I think because it's important. It's another good example of why houses are being built off of nonsense and horseshit, is because of it's easier for the penetration of Wi-Fi and EMF. And now, as we all know, you can research, you can just go look it up. Your EMF router can scan and find you in your home. So each one of us, we don't have to have Neuralink in our brains. You got it right here. It's attached to you at all times. They can find you wherever you are. So things to think about. And also about your Pilgrim State Hospital. The self-contained city is what they're calling it. It serves as the ultimate real-world example of the mid-20th century trend, authorized in 1929 to solve severe overcrowding in New York City's existing institutions. It grew so rapidly that it became the largest psychiatric hospital in the world.
Yep.
It officially opened in 1931 on a massive campus spanning over 1,000 acres. It was designed under the farm colony model, where patients lived and worked in an open air, farming crops as part of their therapeutic treatment.
And my grandfather, after he got out of World War II, I think he got a job there, worked there for a while.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. He said shit was fucking insane.
That's crazy. Yeah, so it's a fascinating thing, which is weird because I'm all like, they went away. Just think of all of the there we are. And just think of all of the, what are they when they took a thing straight through the brain to then rewire your brain.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they had
lobotomies. They lobotomize people. We have a dark history, this dark sorcerer history of trying to control people and experiment on them. It's like, well, you couldn't have a cell phone without this kind of experimentation. I'm like, good, take it. I don't really want it anymore if that's what we're doing. Here we go.
Gottlieb had what amounted to a license to kill issued by the U.S. government. Neither the number of MKUltra victims nor the number of those who were experimented to death is known. Gottlieb, as a result of this license to kill, might have been the most powerful unknown American of the 20th century. Some information about MKUltra spilled out during the 1970s, but senior CIA officers had intentionally let Gottlieb operate without supervision, so they were able to claim that they knew nothing about his excesses. This was a way for the CIA to deny its institutional role in MKUltra and to portray it misleadingly as the product of one man's sadism or excessive zeal. Investigating MKUltra is challenging because when Gottlieb and his mentor Richard Helms left the CIA in 1973, they illegally ordered that its records be destroyed. Soon afterwards, under DCI Stansfield Turner, a CIA analyst, as you pointed out, Madam Chairman, discovered a cache of MKUltra documents hidden among financial records. Turner credited that analyst with doing a very diligent job of Sherlock Holmesing. That same diligence, I believe, could bring results today. One of the great mysteries of MKUltra has to do with the death in 1953 of an MKUltra scientist, Frank Olson, who had announced his intention to quit the project. His plunge from a New York hotel room was described in the press as the suicide of an Army scientist. He was not an Army scientist. He worked for the CIA, and evidence suggests that his death may not have been a suicide. So there could be hidden documents that could illuminate this case.
Weird. Another death that could not have been a suicide. It's wild. So I'm going to move on to more of Kinzer talking about Gottlieb right here. I'm just going to scoot all over the place here just because we've got a mission and we've got a small amount of time. We'll probably do more of these because this is a big topic.
The chick who jerked the dude off in the movie theater.
Yeah, that's what's her name.
It is her. It is her. Holy shit.
Holy shit.
Let me start by answering your second question about Gottlieb.
Poisoner-in-Chief,
see what her question was.
You describe how Project MKUltra was authorized by CIA Director Alan Dulles in April of 1953 as an umbrella program for research into the covert use of biological and chemical materials for mind control and interrogation. What specific geopolitical and intelligence concerns, particularly regarding alleged Soviet and Chinese, quote, brainwashing and Korean War prisoners, drove this authorization? And how did Sidney Gottlieb's unique background and personality and worldwide view shape the program's direction and methods and ethical boundaries?
It's just it was like people are like, so why does this even matter? Why does it? Who cares? MKUltra conspiracy theorists. That's all. Like, are you kidding me? They're experimenting on people and their consciousness and
There's
change.
so much that's even been admitted. It's just like, come on, how the fuck are you even ignoring this?
You can't. And then it's like, well, why does the occult and the esoteric matter? Well, it's because if there are individuals out there in the world, large institutions, deep underground black op programs who are worried about these, not worried, who are using these forms of mind control and manipulation on the human consciousness. Well, how do you take back that power? And that is then by reading the work that they've read, as well as reading all of the ancient work from your Crowley's not ancient, but like from your Golden Dawn to where they got their work, from the Rosicrucians, from the Renaissance magicians, John Dee. Go back farther, you get the Neoplatonists and the Hermeticists. Go back farther, the ancient philosophers, all the way back to ancient Sumerian texts, and you're like, what now? It's like, read the mythologies. We are talking exactly about what's going on in the dark sorcerers' temples. Well, how do you reframe it? Well, go into your own temple, work on your own consciousness, and create and discover and turn on, so to speak, your own aura, your own light body, your own field, to try to battle against the people who are trying to invert your thoughts to do terrible things. And they're like aggravating your limbic system and nervous system so that your animal desires and passions take over, and then so you become an automaton or an NPC. It's disgusting.
Let me start by answering your second question about Gottlieb. He was a very different person from all of the other senior CIA officers of that era. Most of them came from silver spoon backgrounds. They went to the same prep schools and the same Ivy League colleges and belonged to the same yacht clubs and worked for the same law firms and international banks. Sidney Gottlieb was the son of Orthodox Jewish refugees from Central Europe. He had a limp. He had a stutter. He went to Hebrew school. He was so different from all of the other officers. And
Maybe he learned Kabbalah and mysticism from these schools.
upon reflection, I think this may not have been an accident. I think that people at the CIA understood that whoever had this job was going to be doing some awful, terrible things that would be very bloody, that they might become known, and it might be necessary to blame it all on somebody. And they didn't want to have to blame it all on one of their own. So Gottlieb actually became the person on whom everything was blamed. In fact, when he testified in secret here in Congress in the 1970s, he complained that there were documents on which various signatures had been redacted, but his alone had remained. So again, is a way of diverting attention away from the institutional responsibility of the CIA and trying to blame it on one crazy person. As for the international situation at the time, I think it's very important to understand this because there is a sort of a parallel to today. The CIA misinterpreted several key incidents in the world, including those to which you referred, the trial of the Cardinal Mindszenty, and then in Hungary, and then the return of Korean War prisoners. Neither of those episodes really had to do with mind control, but in the CIA, they were interpreted that way. And this gave the CIA a reason to pretend that its research was purely defensive. So I think when you consider the world situation and the sense in Washington that we're surrounded by enemies, that becomes a very dangerous environment. Conspiracy theories stem from the growth of the covert sphere. There's a great contradiction in American life that we pretend to uphold certain principles at home and abroad, but it's evident to many Americans that we actually operate in opposition to those principles. And we operate by secret and anti-democratic means. That contributes to suspicion of government. And the very existence of MKUltra proves that some of the wildest fantasies about secret government research are actually close to reality. That
Very important. I think that's a pretty important part, right?
Yeah.
That a lot of our fantasies, the conspiracy theories and things that people have been trying to tell us for the last 50 years, I'm going to be 40, so 39 years, and like half of that has been delivered into this occult, esoteric conspiracy realm. You've been told that you're crazy and a psycho, when actually, there are things crazy and psychotic, right? I think flat Earth is a psyop and utter nonsense, especially if you believe in astrology and sacred geometry. There's actually no other way. But the idea is that then maybe we have to perceive it from a different angle, that you can see it as a sphere and many spheres and the sacred geometrical harmony of the spheres with the astrological understanding of forces of nature. But then if we can understand that we live in a realm, right? We perceive things in a certain way. And that the interconnectedness of our perceptions on the embodied world actually can come to and understand that how the ideal realm moves through and is imagined, that the darkest, most unimaginable things are coming true, and that they're not only coming true, that they're happening.
Oh, something that Crowley had said, and I was like, yo, maybe he knew the internet was coming. He said at one point, he says he thinks that like even, kids or children's are going to be shown the most vicious shit that humanity can do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's interesting. And definitely, I think so, especially with what happened in World War II and everything that he saw there. And then to project out there to see in the age of the crowned and conquering child, what happens when Horus has to uplift the entire old Osirian and Isin structures. Like during the INRI, right? All of nature must be renewed by fire. Well, we're seeing fire right now. And I think, I think a lot of this that's going on is our government and the royals and whoever these oligarchical parasitic techno-feudalists are. I think they're trying to get a handle on it. And so my thing is that with this Anna Paulina Luna, as much as I think there's just so many different conspiracies, right? Robert Anton Wilson talks about there's like 23 different conspiracies going on at one time. So there's not just one governmental power with everyone conforming to it, but there's many different pieces conspiring, which is why this age of chaos, the ending of the Kali Yuga, or whatever we're going through in this, age is so fascinating. And then now think about once we can understand how the nervous system is so pliable and how the mind is so pliable, that why we practice, why we do magic, why train the body with kung fu or whatever your martial practices are, or body practices are. Because you're in a war. And it's not just a war for the mind, it's a war for the mind body. Because they want to make you sick so you can't stand there with sword in hand, right? Even if it's the mental sword. We can't think properly when our body is tired. And so how can we use our higher reason if our body is being inundated with inflammation and EMF and just lower drive sicknesses and these things? So this is, we live in fascinating times, and I'd rather be here with no one else, Nick, to go through it with, as we are trying to help fight off the archonic demons of the lower realms together from our own seats in our houses and our own temples.
Thank you. You know, something I did want to mention, and I think especially with Catholicism, but even depending on you'll see it, I mean, with the Gnostic mass, but if people practice and they do some sort of Eucharistic thing, or if you eat or drink anything, pretty much when you see these, when you kind of look at how a ritual goes, you are literally tapping into every one of your senses too.
Yes, I like that. Yes, you are.
And I do think part of the ritual, or part of the magician, again, like I said, I think we will become in charge of our own body in that way. I do think it's kind of like you're acknowledging that maybe you're turning them on at that moment, or I'm the one who's activating it with this by my choice.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a little bit of a representative of that, of you even turning on or affecting your own nerves, your own sensory stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. And to me, then I always bring it back to the science fiction part of it, Frank Herbert, Bene Gesserit, the witches. They learn to completely control their body through their prana bindu training. What's that? Pranayama, chanting.
Oh yeah.
Right. They're learning how to use the voice and use the body through gaining control of the breath, which is in your 8 limbs yoga. It's the first thing you learn if you start reading Crowley or any of these magical practices.
Yeah, that's another thing too. When you start looking at a lot of his stuff and you go look at it now, like some of the science that's been behind it, a lot of this shit that he was pushing all affected like your nervous system.
Yep.
It's just like,
Yeah, because if you can get control of that, as we're learning with MKUltra and these experiments, if you can gain control of somebody's nervous system, you can control the person.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You'll know exactly which buttons to push now.
Yep. And then you can get them to do anything. And the mind is very malleable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so now I'm going to skip over to Chaos, Tom O'Neill, and what he's going to bring us here in this interesting stream that we have going on. This man is brilliant. Everyone should go out and read his book. Let's see if we can get what the question was. And we're doing it live, everyone.
Thank you, Chairwoman Luna, and members of the committee. It's a privilege to be here today. Almost 50 years ago, the last congressional hearings into MKUltra took place just a short walk from here in the Dirksen Senate Office Building. At those hearings, convened in August and September of 1977, representatives of the CIA told Congress and the American people that its 25-year effort to control human behavior had been a colossal failure. Because I believe Congress was never told the truth about what this program actually achieved. In fact, I believe the agency misled Congress in 1977 when it characterized MKUltra as a failure. My name is Tom O'Neill, and in 1999, I accepted a magazine assignment to write a story about murders committed by a group of hippies called the Manson family. For those unfamiliar with this horrific episode of American history, in the summer of 1969, 4 young people acting on the orders of a cult leader named Charles Manson went to the home of movie director Roman Polanski and murdered everyone they found there, including his 8.5-month pregnant wife, the actress Sharon Tate. The victims were complete strangers to their killers. The following night, Manson's followers murdered another couple in the same grisly fashion. At the time I accepted the assignment, I'd never heard of MKUltra, and I wouldn't for another 2 years after I'd missed countless deadlines, lost the assignment, and fallen down a nightmarish rabbit hole trying to answer the question I couldn't quite shake. How had Manson, a barely literate ex-con, acquired the ability to persuade ordinary young people to murder complete strangers simply because he had told them to? The pursuit of the answer to that question led me to Dr. Louis Julian West, known to his friends as Jolly. West was one of the most influential psychiatrists in America. During his career, he crossed paths with some of the most controversial events of the 20th century, including the Patty Hearst kidnapping case and the aftermath of the John F. Kennedy assassination investigation. In 1977, West was one of 7 academic researchers named in a front-page New York Times story alleging that the CIA had used American universities, hospitals, and prisons as secret laboratories for experiments involving LSD and other drugs on unwitting human subjects. West vigorously denied the allegations. He acknowledged that the agency had approached him, but insisted he had refused because he said LSD was too dangerous and unpredictable to be used on humans. He added that he limited all of his research with LSD to animals.
Of
Utter lie, utter lie. Sorry, we do it live. That's an utter lie, by the way, everyone.
Yo, Jolly West can make people believe shit that didn't even happen.
Yeah, that's
false memory implantation and shit.
Oh yeah.
As soon as I heard that, you had to start wondering who the fuck's admitting to what and what is even real.
Yep. No,
I think he saw all those people before they ever went to court, didn't he?
He did.
I think the girls too.
Yep. So he could take a handle on it, and he even talks about in this hearing about Jack Ruby, the person who killed what's his name, who killed JFK, and so so Jack Ruby was supposedly under Jolly West's control as well.
Young people to murder complete strangers simply because he had told them to. The pursuit of the answer to that question led me to Dr. Louis Julian West, known to his friends as Jolly. West was one of the most influential psychiatrists in America.
Yeah, Oswald, thank you.
During his career, he crossed paths with some of the most controversial events of the 20th century, including the Patty Hearst kidnapping case and the aftermath of the John F. Kennedy assassination investigation. In 1977, West was one of 7 academic researchers named in a front-page New York Times story alleging that the CIA had used American universities, hospitals, and prisons as secret laboratories for experiments involving LSD and other drugs on unwitting human subjects. West vigorously denied the allegations. He acknowledged that the agency had approached him, but insisted he had refused because he said LSD was too dangerous and unpredictable to be used on humans. He added that he limited all of his research with LSD to animals. The revelations in the Times led directly to the congressional hearings held later that year. West's denials, however, were effective. He was never investigated, and his name never came up at the hearings. I'll spare you the long and tedious story of how my Manson reporting led me to West, except to say that I eventually learned that in 1967, when Manson transformed into the cult leader we are familiar with today, he and his followers were receiving free medical care at a clinic in San Francisco, where West had established a base of operations for a research project he was conducting nearby. After becoming intrigued by the allegations against West, I learned that UCLA, his last academic home, had inherited his paper following his death in 1999. Nearly 2 months and more than 200 boxes later, I found the proverbial needle in a haystack, correspondence between West and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, the architect of MKUltra. The letters begin in 1953, just 2 months after CIA Director Allen Dulles authorized the program, and while West was stationed at the Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, where he was chief psychiatrist at the base hospital. In his first letter to Gottlieb, West proposed conducting experiments on unwitting human subjects including military personnel, prisoners, and psychiatric patients at the base hospital. He then outlined the experiments themselves in 6 more pages that could have been written by Joseph Mengele. Using LSD in combination with hypnosis, West proposed inducing confusion, amnesia, and specific mental disorders in people who would remember nothing of their interaction with him afterward. He sought to develop techniques to extract true information and implant false information in unwilling subjects and to alter the attitudes and beliefs of, quote, previously loyal individuals. In other words, to completely switch their allegiance from one group or leader to another. But it was another sentence at the end of that letter that stopped me cold. These experiments, he wrote, must eventually be put to test in practical trials in the field. Gottlieb's response could hardly have been more enthusiastic. My good friend, he wrote, I had been wondering whether your apparent rapid and comprehensive grasp of our problems could possibly be real. You have indeed developed an admirably accurate picture of exactly what we are after. West replied that there was no more vital undertaking conceivable in these times. There was another document in West's papers that had even more significant implications. It was a 14-page report that West wrote in 1956, just 3 years after he contracted with the CIA. In the report, West described administering LSD and other drugs in conjunction with hypnosis on unwitting human subjects, and then he made a remarkable claim. He announced that he had learned how to replace true memories with false memories in people without their knowledge. In other words, he clarified, it has been found to be feasible to take the memory of a definite event in the life of an individual and, through hypnotic suggestion, bring about the subsequent conscious recall to the effect that this event never actually took place, but that a different fictional event actually did occur. If West's report was accurate, this was not the failure agency officials described in 1977, quite the opposite. It was, in fact, the central ambition of the MKUltra operation, the means of gaining the ability to seize the control of a person's perceptions, memories, and ultimately their behavior. But there was still one more discovery, and this time I found it in the National Security Archives at George Washington University, the official repository of the CIA's MKUltra records, which were released to Congress after the 1977 hearings. In those holdings was a different versions of West's 1956 report. The original paper had been replaced by a 4-page summary that did not exist in West's files and appears to have been written by someone else. His claims about replacing memories were gone. In their place was a theoretical discussion of LSD in dissociative states. The version supplied to Congress concluded that the effects of LSD and similar drugs on dissociative states had, and I'm quoting, never been studied.
Ah, Jesus Christ. Isn't that crazy? Never been studied.
Yeah.
The complete thing that they said was that, it's almost like it's a meta call of like, oh, that thing that was just written there, let's just erase that. It's actually never been studied. We've never worried about that. We don't replace memories. We can't replace memories, Nick.
Yeah, that's crazy how they could do that. I thought it was nuts how, like, even how he said, like, the conversation was just like they're even like on like yeah, this is what we're supposed to be doing. Like, that's like how, like, what kind of megalomaniacs were they?
Yeah. And
you
then
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like I have arrived because I can actually mind fuck people like this.
Yeah. And now think about all of the different cult leaders through time. And that's why Charles Manson is so important, because he didn't kill anybody, but he made other people be able to do it for them in that time frame. And how many famous people were hanging out with Charles Manson at that time, which is wild to think about. A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question, Nick. Thanks, Howard. Thanks, everyone out there, as we go through this brilliant congressional hearing of MKUltra, as they once upon a time tried to say that MKUltra was a failure. And as we're coming to realize, all of you already know, I think a lot of you already realize that it was not a failure. And the exact proponents of what MKUltra did are still being used against us today in an even better, not better, in an even finer, well more detailed way. Because now we carry MKUltra around in our pockets. We stream from MKUltra from one place to the next. And so it's fascinating to think that we are kind of hopefully using, right? We found out on Monday, Kaiva and I, that CERN created the internet, the touch screen, as well as many other things. The CERN created these cell phones.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So not only those cell phones, they then go on and creating, along with MKUltra and these black ops programs, creating the, a more understanding of the neural networks. These are extended versions of our own nervous system out here that are, again, closed loop systems to retrain and program us based upon the algorithms. So then that we do as we're told. But not here at MagusintheMedia, nor the Occult Rejects. We are here to help set you free. Follow us down the rabbit hole as we set you free, one show at a time.
Weird. You think about this shit being an extension of our nervous system.
Yeah.
I would almost say like your phone's like another set of eyes. It's just showing you shit from somewhere else.
It is. Yeah, it is. And or like we talked about in our stream together with Kaiva, the part 2 of our ancient scrying Black Mirror episode. Right? These black mirrors in our pockets are picking up different dimensions and streaming them to us. Other people's imaginations, as sick and dark and tormented as they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They definitely know how to read us by the fucking shit that they feed us in the advertisements. I mean, we know it fucking. We'll talk about something on here and then we'll have the shit on our phones 2 minutes later.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I mean, they obviously know what the fuck they're doing.
Oh yeah, so no, I completely agree. And let's finish out O'Neill's thing here. He's got at 1:02 is we do it live and we do it together. We appreciate everyone. If you haven't subscribed, like, and share to both the Rejects and to MagusintheMedia. We're gonna get a little. This is a long one, so I might have to do a part 2 here eventually. Because this is stuff that I find to be really, really important for all of us to know, because if we don't know it, then it's going to be used against us.
Oklahoma, correct? So that's where he operating out of Oklahoma during this time with Mr.
When he
Manson?
contracted with the CIA, he was at Lackland Air Force Base. He was the chief psychiatrist at the hospital, so he began his experiments there. A year after the letter that I quoted in my statement where he was describing what he wanted to do, a year later on July 3rd, 1954, a 3-year-old girl was abducted and found later in a gravel
They're talking about Jolly West right here.
pit, murdered and next to a car that had been abandoned. And the search party that found the little girl's body was approached by a man who was an airman at the base, and he asked them where he was and how he had gotten there. He was arrested for the murder and described by the military officers who had him in custody as being in a trance or dazed. He didn't have any drugs in his system. He didn't recognize his wife when she was brought to see him. And at his trial, where Jolly West was his advising psychiatrist who examined him,
Of course.
it emerged that he had actually been being treated at the hospital at Lackland in an experimental program to cure his chronic, debilitating migraine headaches, and he was executed 4 years later.
And then years later, he ends up volunteering to handle the Jack Ruby.
West does, yeah.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So just before we wrap up, is it in your expert opinion that Jack Ruby and Manson were assets of the intelligence agencies specifically pertaining to MKUltra? Were they MKUltra victims?
Yeah, theoretically, Manson, I've never been able to prove absolutely. Jack Ruby, I believe, this is something else. The Warren Commission investigation, on the Warren Commission was Alan Dulles, the former CIA director, who authorized and ran MKUltra until he was fired by President Kennedy. The liaison to the committee for the CIA, who handled the information coming from the CIA back and forth to the Warren Commission, was Richard Helms, who was a direct supervisor of Jolly West. They knew who West was. They knew that what West was capable of and what they had paid him to do and what he had reported to them that he could do, including inducing mental disorders in people. That was never disclosed to the commission as far as anyone knows. So I believe that West was put in there to keep Jack Ruby from telling his story.
Yeah, wild. Now we're going to go over to the Nazi lineage as we continue through this. We're probably going to end the stream here pretty soon, but we got to understand, where does that come into play?
Orientation and concentration camps. The CIA and military were aware of their backgrounds and recruited them anyways. In your research, did you find direct documentation between Paperclip scientists and the development of MKUltra's experimental protocols, specifically the use of mescaline, hypnosis, and sensory deprivation, which were techniques also documented at Dachau?
Absolutely. Kurt Blome, who was the chief of biological weapons development for the Nazi government, came to work for the CIA. So did Walter Schreiber, who was the Surgeon General of the Nazi Army. I can just tell a brief story. When I was researching my book, I found what I think might be the first secret CIA prison or black site. It's a nice chalet in Germany. And the guy who now owns it took me into the basement. He said these were the cells where the MKUltra officers, working side by side with Nazis, carried out those gruesome experiments, which were actually just continuations of the experiments that those Nazis had been conducting just a few years earlier right down the road.
Just for timeline and clarification, these experiments were happening after the Nuremberg trials, correct? So the CIA would have known that these were crimes against humanity.
I looked for an episode in which the Nuremberg doctrines were posted on the wall in some MKUltra or CIA office, and I was never able to find any indication that those Nuremberg principles ever were even consulted, much less obeyed.
Wild. Nuremberg.
I don't think we even agree to them. I don't think our country has to even follow them.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, yeah, like I think like literally like whatever country signed it, we're not on it. Like whatever laws we prosecuted them with, we're not under.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, best country in the entire world, following all the rules.
And one that I would urge you to pursue is, what was Sidney Gottlieb doing during 2 years in Germany? He went to Germany and went to live there as a case officer. I was never able to find out, what did he do during 2 years in Germany? There were huge numbers of MKUltra experiments going on in Germany, including a number that were fatal. That would be a very interesting catch of documents to find.
We will definitely be following up. My next question would be for either Dr.
Yo, I meant to say earlier, Oswald.
Yeah.
You know, because I would say Jack Ruby, kind of all that ties in.
Well, yeah, Ruby killed Oswald.
Yeah, I wondered about Oswald. He went over to Russia, and when he was over there, he was working on whatever that vaccine that the polio vaccine. And that fucked people up.
Oh, yeah, the polio vaccine gave people polio.
Yeah, and I think there was something in it also that might have caused cancer that supposedly was used in the COVID vaccine.
Ooh.
So, you know, you do like he went over there and then came back. So, like, even wonder like who for all you know, Oswald was someone who was a patsy for something because he worked on a project and they wanted him shut the fuck up or killed.
I completely agree. Yeah, I definite patsy.
Yeah.
Definitely patsy. Definitely Oswald connected to, interesting enough, we talked about it in a few of our streams with the Principe Discordia and Carrie Thornley, who's one of the creators of the Principe Discordia and Discordianism in the 60s, in the 70s. The whole chaos magic scene and integration of that. So it's like, what is magic? What is the occult and magic? If you don't see the through line of the occult and the esoteric and magic and mysticism and all this, I can't help you. You know? And so it's just really important to know is if you're not getting in control of your nervous system, somebody else is doing it for you.
Just 2 months after CIA Director Allen Dulles authorized the program, and while West was stationed at the Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, where he was chief psychiatrist at the base hospital. In his first letter to Gottlieb, West proposed conducting experiments on unwitting human subjects, including military personnel, prisoners, and psychiatric patients at the base hospital. He then outlined the experiments themselves in 6 more pages that could have been written by Joseph Mengele. Using LSD in combination with hypnosis, West proposed inducing confusion, amnesia, and specific mental disorders in people who would remember nothing of their interaction with him afterward. He sought to develop techniques to extract true information and implant false information in unwilling subjects and to alter the attitudes and beliefs of, quote, previously loyal individuals. In other words, to completely switch their allegiance from one group or leader to another. But it was another sentence at the end of that letter that stopped me cold. These experiments, he wrote, must eventually be put to test in practical trials in the field. Gottlieb's response could hardly have been more enthusiastic. My good friend, he wrote, I had been wondering whether your apparent rapid and comprehensive grasp of our problems could possibly be real. You have indeed developed an admirably accurate picture of exactly what we are after. West replied that there was no more vital undertaking conceivable in these times. There was another document in West's papers that had even more significant implications. It was a 14-page report that West wrote in 1956, just 3 years after he contracted with the CIA. In the report, West described administering LSD and other drugs in conjunction with hypnosis on unwitting human subjects, and then he made a remarkable claim. He announced that he had learned how to replace true memories with false memories in people without their knowledge. In other words, he clarified, it has been found to be feasible to take the memory of a definite event in the life of an individual and, through hypnotic suggestion, bring about the subsequent conscious recall to the effect that this event never actually took place, but that a different fictional event actually did occur. If West's report was accurate, this was not the failure agency officials described in 1977, quite the opposite. It was, in fact, the central ambition of the MKUltra operation, the means of gaining the ability to seize the control of a person's perceptions, memories, and ultimately their behavior.
Very important. Very important, guys out there. If you're not scared, you should be. But what happens when we're scared? That's a test. It's a test to take control of your own nervous system so you don't fear, because fear is the mind killer. I think Nick, we're gonna have to do a part 2. What do you think? You game?
Yeah, I'm totally down for that. Yeah, I'm always into MKUltra and Nazi stuff. I love that shit.
Great, because I got a bunch more for us to listen to here. So we're going to continue this beautiful show, this wonderful time with Nick and myself, because there's some strange things going on. And again, if you're not in control of yourself, somebody else is. They're pushing the buttons. They learn how to do this through a lot of things that were once upon a time conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, how much that used to be considered like you're crazy for saying that stuff is now like accepted. Like I've even noticed that even with shit that my father sends me now, like text messages. I was like, if I was sending you this like 10 years ago, you'd be like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yep. Isn't that crazy?
Okay, now because the fucking TV told you this shit's real.
Yeah. Yep, I completely agree. It's like that with a lot of associates. Once friends, now associates, where they're all like, "Well," but they don't say you were right. They say, "So, NBC says, Fox News says, my favorite streamer says," and I'm all like, "I'm your friend. I've been telling you this for a long time. Why can't you? Because you're in a cult. That's why. Because you're in a cult and you can't stray from your Scientology, right? No hate on the Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard and his taking of the Golden Dawn stuff and Crowley stuff and making a massive church. But because I don't want any I'd rather have the CIA come after me than Scientology.
Right? Be cheaper, probably.
Be cheaper. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
court so much.
But who knows? We could be psyops ourselves, Nick and I. Who knows? We could just be shadows on a wall. So don't believe us. Do your own research. Because when you do your own research, you become your own hermeticist, your own magician. And we are continually trying to remind you, again, that becoming a sovereign magician and understanding that even maybe your favorite YouTuber, your favorite content creator, your favorite artist, no matter who they are, the favorite occultist most likely they're trying to feed you full of something that they want you to buy. Even I, here, I'm trying to get you to subscribe, like, and share. Buy my merch. When my Patreon is here, please click and donate so I can continue talking to you and bringing you these things. But there's some kind of difference, is that there's an exchange here. And the difference is that I am open, authentic, and honest and telling you exactly what's happening. That I am understanding the world through myth, magic, and meaning in all of the stories that you love, and even the ones that you don't. Because the ones that you don't, if they are inversions from some black op government program, from some CIA mockingbird media, from some director who's implanted, from some MKUltra Mancurian candidate who's talking to some Sumerian AI overlord, who knows what's going on? I don't. I'm just trying to tell you the things that I've seen, right?
To connect some dots. So many to connect with that culture too.
So many.
Yeah.
It's so many because of it's doing exactly what magicians are doing. It's hypnosis. How many magicians do you know out there are hypnosis? Angel Miller, who we love. I like Angel. I like his books and I like his work, but he's learned hypnosis. Mesmer. Right? Mesmer in all his work was about hypnosis and understanding the fine vibrations and subtleties of the nervous system.
I talk about him in the hypnosis series a lot. Yeah, mesmerism.
Yeah, and those are just other words for trying to take control of the mind. Animal magnetism, exactly. Yeah. And so even though the words have changed shape because the culture has changed through time. And
that's exactly what I even showed too, how things kind of change shape. But if you really look at it, there's still almost this underlying commonality that all those theories still had.
Yep. All vibrating the divine names.
Still being affected, put it that way.
Yep. That's exactly.
That's not even the question. It's how.
Yep. It's how. Right. And so we live in an age of discord. And what do we do in ages of discord? I tell you, the same thing I tell my students when I'm teaching them Tai Chi or any kind of Kung Fu, mixed martial arts. It's that we need to first root ourselves, connect to the earth, and find your center. And I think that is how we build from there to become the king, the philosopher, the magician, the lover, and the warrior. So I think this is fantastic. As they say in, I think this Liber, until you have gained control of all four elements, you shall never be able to, evoke or invoke the demons of the Goetia, let alone try to ask for accordance with the divine realm and the angels. And so to find that balance, you must be in control of these four elements, right? The lower points of the pentagram, with the spirit raised up forward, all four elements below it. And I think that's just really important. Nick, tell them where they can find you. Tell them all the stuff you're working on. We're going to do this again soon, maybe tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow actually would work out fine for me.
Great. We're going to do it tomorrow during the day, same time. Everyone out there, come back to us, but tell them where you're at.
The Occult Rejects, BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, and all major podcasts. Yeah, check it out. I got some really cool stuff coming out soon for the mechanics of magic. I got hypnosis. I got stuff on the eyeball. Should be interesting.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's fantastic. We live in such strange times, and I'm just grateful to be able to do it with such a fine man as yourself.
Thank you. No, same with you, man. I always truly enjoy kicking it with you.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. And everybody knows where they can find me. MagusintheMedia and all major podcasting things. I'm putting it up. One-man team here, putting it up on Spotify and Apple here soon. All of you who love my work, please, when I find memberships and get them out there on Patreon, feel free to donate. So I can continue doing this, so I can battle the archons and teach you all magic and kung fu, that which is coming from the internal out. As well as the beauty, my own muse, the great goddess herself, Kaiva Rose. She is also a great divine light of guidance in these strange times. And so even though she's not here, she is one of the fellow co-host of MagusintheMedia and Occult Rejects. 11KaivaRose33.com. She's got books, Rue Odyssey. She is a traditional astrologer who's fighting the pop astrology demons. They're everywhere out there. Traditional astrology is the way to go. She's a tarot reader. She does all those things. So you can find her at 11 Kaivaros 33. And our many different and beautiful cohorts. We love Jules and his gray pill, Judith, Ethan Indigo, Jin. They're all there. You know, Robbie Marks is streaming the ether waves of the fucking festy scene currently right now. So we wish him luck on that. And again, me and the Occult Rejects, we deeply integrated as we were both sovereign magicians trying to fight off both those in the nonsensical Western occult spheres, as well as the scientific materialists, as well as all those retards out there on the X and Instagram. So yeah, we love all of you as we always do. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share if you haven't, and follow us next time. We're going to be coming back tomorrow, most likely same time. I'll put it up on all the social media, and we're going to continue this brilliant congressional hearing, MKUltra. What was revealed and where did the research go? Thank you and have a great day. Goodbye.